A fresh take on local, regional, and national news. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe, brought to you in part by Wheeling Hospital.
And you may find yourself living in a shotgun shack. And you may find yourself in another part of the world. And you may find yourself behind the wheel of a large automobile. And you may find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife. And you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here? Letting the days go by. Let the water hold me down. Letting the days go by. Water flowing down.
Good morning, Ohio Valley. Yes, how did we get here? These and other questions we will try to answer, or at least address, during the morning show today. It's Thursday, January 7th, 2021. And boy, did we have some news between the time that I signed off yesterday at 9 o'clock, Biff, and then this morning, Biff Leonard along with me on the comm. This is Butch Maxwell on the air and in the chair here for Howard Monroe, who is away again today. But don't worry, he's coming right up. We're going to have him chime in a little on the events of yesterday. But Biff, what did you think? Did you get any sleep at all?
Yeah, I got sleep last night, but didn't see what happened yesterday taking place.
Mm-hmm.
I think kind of followed it in the afternoon
Right,
for a little bit, and then went home and kind of probably till about 6 or 7, and then at that point I said, you know what, I've had enough.
Yeah.
Watched a little bit of 2.5 Men and Everybody Loves Raymond
Okay.
last night, and then I had my I had the phone because the Nailers were in Greenville last night, so I was that game was a back and forth game, so I had the phone and was kind of keeping an eye on that a little bit every once in a while until Nailers won in overtime 5-4, by the way.
Well,
so
that's good.
That's good.
good
So yeah,
We're looking for good news here.
so yeah. So after that, it was kind of like, all right, let's go to bed and we'll get up in the morning and see what's going on.
See what
and,
happened
yeah.
then. There's little we can do about it. Well, probably that's probably healthy for you because I know that I was glued to all of the cable news networks, going back and forth among them all, and I want to talk right now to somebody who I'm sure was in the same state or a similar state yesterday evening, despite everything going on in his life. Howard Monroe is on the line. Hi, Howard. How are you?
Good morning, Butch. Morning, Biffy. Everything all right up there?
Yeah, we're doing fine. We're just kind of recoiling from all this, as I'm sure you are too.
I've been like Biff recently. We talked about it here on the show. I have traditionally, in the last couple of weeks, my wife and I watch old episodes of Perry Mason every night. I've stayed away from the news. I'm not watching CNN, not doing a whole lot of social media. It's just I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, it's nice to take a break and you feel like maybe you can relax.
But yesterday, and unfortunately, was an all CNN day. I was taking a nap, actually. Taking a nap. And you know how when you sleep, and you sort of hear your phone ding, ding, ding. Yeah. Pardon me, I kept hearing a little ding, ding, ding in my dreamland. And then eventually I woke up, took a look at the phone, and people were texting me, and the radio station was calling, going, there's something happening. And once I got into it, it was an all day event, all day and into the night. In fact, finally, at some point, I said to my wife, I said, the problem has gone away. The takeover, if you will, had kind of been under control.
Right. Yeah.
And they were back doing their voting on the Electoral College, and I'm still watching that.
Right. Yeah.
I said, no, I gotta go to bed. I can't. I just can't keep on watching this.
I made it
into
some of those, but it seemed like after 8 o'clock, things kind of calmed down. The chronology of this might have started with a rally in the mall in the morning yesterday, as of course the backdrop is that at the Capitol, both the House and the Senate were doing a performa thing where they're just basically certifying the election results, and there was a rally including the president, but also Rudy Giuliani and the president's son, and ultimately the president who said things like this: "We're going to walk down to the Capitol and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women." Now, this was not, that's the end of the quote, that's not to, certify the election, but rather to protest the election or try to overthrow the election. So that happened early on. Trump said, "We will never give up. We will never concede." And the people rallied, and the rally chanted back, "Bull something, bull something, bull something." They didn't say something, but then Trump basically promised that he would follow them. He would go with them. He would lead the rally down to the Capitol. And then, of course, he got back in his limousine and went back to the White House and turned on the TV. Meanwhile, at 1 p.m., hundreds of pro-Trump protesters pushed through the barrier set up along the perimeter of the Capitol, where they tussled with officers in full riot gear, calling some of the officers traitors for doing their jobs. These are the Blue Lives Matter people. About 90 minutes later, the police and demonstrators got into the building and through the doors of the House and Senate. They were being locked, but right about that time, the House floor was evacuated by police, and Vice President Mike Pence was also evacuated from the chamber. By 3 o'clock, an armed standoff was going on in the House front door, as police officers had their guns drawn, and somebody who was trying to breach it. The Senate floor was cleared of rioters as of 3:30 p.m., and the U.S. Capitol Police worked to secure the second floor of the Capitol, and were seen just before 5 p.m. Pushing demonstrators off the steps of the east side of the building. Within 30 minutes, with 30 minutes to go before Washington, D.C. 6 p.m. curfew, then the Washington police amassed a long line and basically began to push the mob back. And finally, at 8 o'clock, the proceedings resumed. Things seemed to be relatively calm outside. So that's sort of the chronology of this anyway. What's your take on this, Howard? What do you think?
You know, a lot of people during the day on TV and radio were saying things like, "I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this is happening." Yeah. Here's my take. We knew this was going to happen. Yeah. This is the actually intended, but this is the ultimate consequence of the kinds of words and the kinds of actions that President Trump and his folks have been engaging in for the last several years, supporting violence, supporting the rough and violent overthrow of anybody that disagrees with him. Mm-hmm. And you heard it just yesterday at that rally you talked about, and the president said things like, "And I want you to go down there, and I want you to be strong. We're going to be strong. The only thing I listen to is strength." Yes. And Rudy Giuliani even called it, he said, "Let's have trial by combat." I mean, they were encouraging this. Now, obviously, later in the day, Trump was trying to say, "Oh, let's be peaceful, let's all," but you can't throw gasoline on a fire and then say, "Boy, I wish that hadn't really gone up that way." Yeah. You throw gasoline on a fire, it's going to go into a blaze. Yes, exactly. And he's done this for years, and this is the ultimate. I mean, it's just, in some ways, it's the perfect ending to this man's 4 years in office. This is what he's been leading up to, and to suggest that I didn't see it coming. You were blind then, yeah. Because clearly this was coming.
Yes, yeah, and so wonder why. Well, maybe we can get into this a little bit later, because I think we're going to. The plan is to talk to Bob Ney a little bit later, and he has some experience in this. But a lot of things I've heard and wondered myself is, where were the police? Where were the Capitol Hill Police, or where were the National Guard, or why weren't we more prepared for this? And
that's a huge question.
yeah,
The Capitol is a very open and public building. You've probably been there, Biff. I've been there a number of times. Butch, I've been there a number of times.
yeah,
Multiple entrances. It's the people's house. After 9/11, it was kind of made a little bit more difficult to get in. But you can get in. You can wander around. You can, it's the people's house.
right.
But yesterday, knowing there was going to be protest, they had it somewhat secured. By that I mean they set aside a large space in front of the plaza that people weren't allowed to go into. You couldn't just walk up to the steps and look through the windows. There were people supposedly keeping you from doing that, figuratively speaking. Yeah. How did large numbers of people just get not up to it, but into the Capitol? Yeah. Where were the Capitol Police? Where were the National Guard? Well, the National Guard wasn't there. Right. But where were the other forms of security? And she pointed out, I want to talk to Bob Ney about that. Bob, when he was House Administration Chair, was in charge of the Capitol Police. And I know for a fact they're very, very, very particular about anything. Bob Ney and I were together once at the Capitol in the evening, it was State of the Union night, as a matter of fact, and he and I were walking across the Capitol grounds, and a couple of guards came and stopped. A couple of Capitol Police came and stopped us. Excuse me, gentlemen, where are you going? You're not allowed to be here. I mean, we were just two guys walking at night.
Yeah.
And they stopped us and said, you can't be here. Actually, they looked at Bob and said, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, never mind, you can go on.
You got to get rid of the other guy there.
Yeah, but I mean, how did it happen? How could large numbers of, and it's not like one or two guys snuck in the back door, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
Which they didn't hey, come on, well, they'll be out front, we'll sneak around. They basically stormed the building.
Yeah.
And I hate to draw the comparison, but many people have done this yesterday. On a variety of the Black Lives Matter event and other D.C. protests, you had these militarized police standing in formation like the Centurion Guard from Rome
No ID.
to prevent anybody from getting, what's that? Yeah, exactly.
No ID.
And yeah, but when it was a Black Lives Matter type movement, they were prepared, they were ready, they were standing shoulder to shoulder. They all had their militarized garb on, the helmets and so on, and basically were saying like Gandalf, "Thou shalt not pass."
Yes.
What happened here? What happened here? How was okay? There is at least one video, and I do not say this is true of everybody. There's at least one video where some of the law enforcement moved the barricades to let these folks get through easier.
Yeah, Howard.
How does this happen?
I saw the same video yesterday. I think it was on Twitter, and a couple different people, maybe at least that I saw, 2 or 3 people put that video. And if you haven't seen it, the camera zooms in real close, and all you see is casually, like Howard was saying, just the two, I don't know, security, police, whatever you want to call them, and they just casually kind of move it to the side, and the next thing you know, there goes the rush of people that were there. I mean, how?
And you can see a guy up front waving them in. There's a guy, not a law enforcement, but one of the protesters, wave, "Come on, guys, come on!" And they all go right down the sidewalk, so to speak.
Yeah.
So now, I'm not implying that was the case all the way around. That was hopefully an isolated incident. But how did this happen? Where was the attempt to prevent it?
Yeah, I think
before there was literally a takeover of the Capitol. I mean, I think at some point, I kept saying this a lot yesterday, there are things that have to be done in order. Getting order back was one thing, and getting the electoral vote done last night was something else, and dealing perhaps with the president. There's still talk today about the 25th Amendment being invoked.
Yeah.
Dealing with all that is first. But then at some point there must be an investigation. What the hell happened here?
Yeah.
How could the American Capitol be overrun by a mob of just... And look at some of the pictures of these guys, Butch. I mean, we're not talking about serious thinking.
No, we're not.
They were just hoodlums.
Yes.
They were just Goofy people.
Yeah, it struck me that that it was the coup of the village idiots, and that it really it was incredibly incompetent on both sides actually. I mean, I don't blame the Capitol Police; they were overwhelmed. I think that above their rank, they needed more reinforcement. I think it's obvious, and of course, hindsight's 20/20, but. But we should have known this was the final day that something like this might happen, other than the inauguration itself. So that's something that really we need to take up with Bob Ney. He may be able to give us some more insight, and I hope we can do that after the 8 o'clock hour, sometime during the 8 o'clock hour. I don't know, Howard, if you've been familiar with this, but. A newly elected Republican delegate from West Virginia was part of the storming of the U.S. Capitol. Derek
Evans.
Yes. What should we do with this guy? I don't know that he committed a crime other than perhaps breaking into the Capitol and things like that. You have any thoughts on that?
Speaker Hanshaw addressed it a little bit yesterday, saying that in his mind, as a general comment on this attack on the Capitol, crimes were committed and people needed to be prosecuted and punished. And Derek Evans was among those. And if you looked at the video, he was happily leading the way. I mean, he was just as happy as all get out. We're in, he said. Really, really, really happy about his little activity there. Speaker Hanshaw implied that he will, be reasonable about it and look into all of the facts of the matter first, but that there could certainly be some kind of action against Evans. There is a change.org petition circulating right now that has significant numbers of signatures on it. I'm looking to see if my notes here, I have the number of signatures, so I can't find it right now. But there's a change.org petition going around to have him removed from office. We will talk again. I did a little preparing, if you don't mind, Butch, it's your show, I know.
But, no, it's your show. I'm just here for you. I'm just keeping your seat warm.
I invited Brad McElhenney from Metro News to join us around 8:40.
Okay.
Because Brad was following that part of the story yesterday, and we'll get a sense of maybe what could happen to Evans, what might happen to him, and what Hanshaw and others in the West Virginia have had to say about it.
Yeah.
But he was just happy as all get out. I mean, look at the video. He had a helmet on.
Yeah.
By the way, if you put a helmet on to go into the Capitol, doesn't it imply you think there's probably going to be trouble?
I think so, yes. Yeah. It's,
I mean...
go ahead. Yeah.
No, you go in wearing a suit and tie or jeans and a T-shirt or whatever, or you want to get all dressed up, put a fedora on, and you're going to just go into the building.
Right.
You go in wearing a helmet. Doesn't it suggest you're anticipating trouble?
Yeah, it's kind of a battle cry.
And at one point in that video, after one of the people there, they actually yell. You can hear them yelling, "Derek's in, Derek's in." Yeah. I mean, they're yelling, "He's in, let's go," and then you just see more people start pushing their way through.
So you could infer then that he was in a leadership position here, and
yes. Yeah. Now, I want to be somewhat fair to him. Not a whole lot. Please don't get me wrong.
Okay.
I'll be somewhat fair to him. He did. You can also see on one of the, there's several videos circulating. On one of them, he kept saying to everybody, no vandalism. We're here to protest. We're not here to vandalize. Didn't stop people from vandalizing. But, I mean, he did say that frequently. He spoke to the guards as they rushed by and said things like, we're not here to get upset with you. We're here to make a point. He at least was smart enough to know that to try to ameliorate his actions with kinder words,
Yeah.
And again, I don't want that to be taken in any way of a defense of him, because it's not defensible.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
And he has a history of violent, right-wing protest kind of stuff
Like
here in West Virginia as well, so it's not a total surprise. I mentioned to someone last night, I was saying, I said, "Oh my God, now look at this. There's a Washington delegate that was directly involved." And immediately my daughter-in-law said, Was it Derek Evans? So, yes.
The
Yes, it
usual
was.
suspects. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, one thing
And
that
of course, last night, Bitch, I keep saying, I got Biff and Butch together. That's a problem for me. And if it were not on the radio, it would be kind of a fun combination word. It's Bitch there, but it's probably not a good thing to say. Last night, there was serious talk about the 25th Amendment. I mean, for the first time I ever had heard on television, high-level officials were said to be considering 25th Amendment action against Donald Trump.
Yeah, so we should probably explain the 25th Amendment and to make sure that listeners understand it. But it takes the 25th Amendment. Basically, you have to have the president or the vice president and significant members of the cabinet. Like, isn't a majority of the cabinet who want to vote?
Yeah, I think it might be 2/3. I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Yeah. But basically, it's a procedure to remove the president pretty much immediately without congressional approval, and then the vice president would become the president. And then, of course, he is that right?
Yes, no, you're right.
Okay.
There is then a process that kicks in. The president has the right to an appeal, and I mean, he can say, no, I don't believe you're right.
Yeah.
But then there has to be a hearing, and as was pointed out to me last night by some folks, that hearing does not have to happen immediately. And given the short period of time that we have between now and Inauguration Day, it probably, a 25th Amendment action probably would be binding enough that he'd be gone before, he would stay gone before Inauguration Day.
One thing that would,
I don't,
now I know in the case of an impeachment, after one is impeached and convicted, you cannot run for federal office any longer. I wonder if the same is true for the 25th Amendment.
I don't know, and that's an important thing. And there was talk about impeachment again yesterday, but that's a longer process.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I mean, again, it's amazing the public conversation that was held last night. Not elected, but appointed political officials inside his administration were saying out loud, he might be crazy.
Yeah.
He might literally be off his gourd. He's acting in a way that doesn't seem like he's got his faculties about him. I mean, that's why this 25th is being talked about.
Yeah. Well, it's probably true. I mean, there have been a number of professionals who have diagnosed him, although you can't really diagnose somebody medically at a distance, but that he's a narcissistic personality, that he's got a number of disorders, and these have been going on for a long time. But now maybe people close to the president have finally awakened to it. It's kind of amazing to me. Howard, another thing. I'm sorry.
And it's amazing that they would say this out loud again. I'm sure that probably things like the 25th Amendment have been whispered. I guarantee you that inside the White House and the administration and elsewhere in D.C., there's been talk of, I think he's off his gourd.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been said as publicly as it was during the day yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was mentioned fairly early on. I think even when Rod Rosenstein said that he would be willing to wear a wiretap to get evidence against the president. Allegedly said that, at least. That has been an undercurrent even from near the beginning of the administration. And another thing that occurs to me is that the President Trump, in one of his first addresses when he became president, spoke on American carnage. Remember that? It's a very, very dark speech. And it seems as though that finally came to fruition yesterday when we had at least one death. I've seen reports where there were up to 4 different deaths, but I can't.
Yeah, the number I've seen this morning, and I don't have the details of them, is 4 deaths. I'm not sure who those 4 were, but I've seen 4 this morning.
Yeah, that's what I saw this morning too. Yesterday they were talking about one woman, but there weren't any details. But anyway, this is carnage. This is American carnage, and there's blood on the president's hands. I think
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it. And it's so typical of the president and his followers. I almost jumped on social media to respond to a couple of comments last night, but I promised myself not to do that.
You're just going to get into a back and forth on that.
Exactly. But I have one Facebook friend who was just listening. All of the terrible things the Democrats have done in the last 4 years. The Democrats have made us not believe in our institutions. They have tried to deinstitutionalize the Justice Department. They've tried to take away law. And I'm thinking, this is that old, there's a word for this, Butch, and you would probably know it. Everything the guy was saying is true of Trump, not of...
Yes.
It is. Everything you're saying is true, except it's your guy and your team that's doing it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. And it's kind of a variation on the standard Trump apologists, the sort of Trump Zambonis that run around and clean up after him, saying things like, it's whataboutism. I like to call it that. Where,
yes.
It's just, oh yeah, well, what about Joe Biden's son, and so, what about Hunter Biden? It's just crazy. So yeah, I don't know. Howard, we should probably take a little our mid break now. Do you want to stick around, or just want to come back at 8? Or
I'll come back and join you probably at 8 o'clock. We'll talk to Bob Ney, also Brad McElhenney, and get a few more things in there. It's today is funeral day for my brother, and I do want to thank all of those folks from the audience who sent me condolences on Facebook and in person. But I appreciate you filling in for me, Butch, over the last couple of days. Done a great job. I've been listening.
Happy to.
So I'll take a little break and maybe get ready. It's funeral time
Yeah,
later on today.
You've got other things to deal with today, but
I just felt like I needed to get in and get some some thoughts out on this today. And
absolutely, we're glad to have you.
We have again Bob Ney will join us at 8 o'clock to talk about the Capitol Police and how this could happen. I mean, how does it happen? And then Brad will join us after that to talk about what's going to happen to this, if anything, this West Virginia delegate that was among those on hand. In the meantime, you've got the calm.
All right. Thanks so much, Howard. We'll talk to you in just, 20 minutes or so. All right. And we are going to take a break right now. You're listening to The Morning Show with Howard Monroe right here on the Watchdog Network. Guest hosting today is me, Butch Maxwell, and I'm here with Biff Leonard on the comm. We'll be right back.
The WTRF Channel 7 News Update is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
Now it's time for your local news headlines from 7 News at WTRF, My Ohio Valley, and ABC Ohio Valley. Only on AM 1600 WKKX. The Watchdog.
Good Thursday morning, Ohio Valley. I'm Stephen Ruffing with your 7 News headlines. Chaos in the nation's capital. Mobs of President Trump supporters stormed the Capitol building in protest against the latest election results. This was hours before Congress was finally able to finish counting electoral votes, almost 12 hours after gaveling into session. Some Ohio Valley residents saw the action firsthand yesterday. They tell us they estimate around 300,000 people came out to protest the election. The goal was to make a statement saying the election was stolen, calling for an audit, and then to listen to their country's leader. They say while there were police around the perimeter of the mall, they saw few guarding the Capitol, and around 1 or 2, some started looking for trouble, jumped the fence, and tear gas started. And now, not all teachers are thrilled about going back to full-time in-person learning on the 19th. A recent survey revealed that 82% of the Ohio County Education Association were not in favor of the governor's decision. The OCEA president declined to say the number of teachers that make up this survey. However, she did say the 5-day model of in-person curriculum will throw off the system some teachers and students have grown accustomed to. Although many educators side with Governor Justice, saying virtual learning is not working, the association believes safety and education should not be an either-or scenario. Now's a look at your headlines. Have a great day, everyone.
How about a big-time win on the road for those Wheeling Nailers? A 5-4 overtime victory over Greenville. Wheeling won it on a 5-on-3 situation. So a nice road win for the Wheeling Nailers. Meanwhile, in college basketball, a thriller in the ACC. Trailing by 16 points with 11 minutes left in the Carrier Dome, the Pitt Panthers scored 30 of the last 41 points in the game to beat Syracuse by 3, 63-60. Prior to the win in Syracuse, Pitt had lost 7 in a row to the Orangemen. With the W, the Panthers improved to 6-2. I'm looking forward to Saturday when 14th ranked West Virginia will host 4th ranked the Texas Longhorns in Morgantown. Meanwhile, the Steelers continue to prepare for Sunday's matchup with the Cleveland Browns. Ben Roethlisberger's feeling great. He should. His body has received a week of rest, and that is needed for Ben to feel good for the playoffs. Playoffs? Well, on Wednesday, no positive COVID-19 results for the Cleveland Browns. That's some good news coming out of Cleveland. Meanwhile, the Steelers signed defensive back Trevor Williams to the practice squad. He played his college football at Penn State, spent 3 years with the San Diego Chargers. To no one's surprise, Clemson's junior quarterback Trevor Lawrence officially declared for the National Football League draft. Remember, be safe out there. Please be considerate of others. Check on the elderly. I'm Bill DeFabio on sports on AM 1600, and we are and always will be the watchdog.
New Belgium Fat Tire Amber Ale is now available in West Virginia and distributed locally by wine and beverage merchants. With its toasty and biscuit-like malt flavors blended perfectly with hoppy freshness, it's bound to become one of your new favorite craft beers. Fat Tire Amber Ale is now available at local retailers. Please don't drink and drive, and drink responsibly. From your friends at Wine and Beverage Merchants.
A serious injury from an accident can be just the start of your worries. What if you cannot return to work? How do you take care of your family if you're disabled? At Gelner Law Offices, we represent seriously injured people and understand their problem. We know how to get you fair compensation. We will work hard to make sure you get the money you deserve for your losses. Don't go it alone. If you're hurt in an accident, call us at 304-242-2900 or visit us at gelnerlaw.com.
We'd like to help.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Overnight, President Trump releasing a statement through a member of his staff. He said, quote, "There will be an orderly transition," but at the same time making more baseless claims of election fraud and not condemning his supporters' siege of the U.S. Capitol that left 4 dead. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser is calling for President Trump to be held accountable.
Sadly, it led to a loss of life that will forever stain what could have been and what should have been a peaceful transfer of power.
Shortly after 3:30 a.m. in Washington, Congress certified Joe Biden's victory. Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar, after tallying the votes.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be the president and the vice president according to the ballots that have been given to us.
Still, over 100 Republican members of Congress voted to try to decertify votes in Arizona and Pennsylvania. Dave Packer, ABC News.
From the Watchdog Network, right now, traffic. Here's the latest from the Robinson Auto Group Traffic Center.
Traffic near the Highlands, on Washington Avenue, and on the Fort Henry Bridge is running regularly. Traffic near the Ohio Valley Mall, on 70 and 470, and on State Route 7 is flowing. The Market Street overpass width reduction will continue. I-70 construction will continue westbound where crossovers are in effect. And all existing detours and closures will continue for the I-70 Bridges project. Follow Ohio Valley Traffic Report on Facebook, WTRF 7 News, and the Watchdog for updates.
Attention Facebook followers. You can now watch the Valley's #1 morning show with Howard Monroe. Weekdays 7 to 10 a.m. Only on Watchdog Radio and the Watchdog Facebook page.
And good morning once again, Ohio Valley. You're listening to The Morning Show with Howard Monroe on the Watchdog Network. And yes, this is not Howard Monroe. This is Butch Maxwell. Sitting in for one more day for Howard Monroe. Glad to be here. Glad to be part of your early morning. And on the line, we've got somebody who's going to answer the question, in the long run, are we ever going to see this sunlight again? Zach from WTRF. Hey, you there?
Yes, I'm here, Butch. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well despite the fact that it's just about freezing outside, and we had an insurrection at the Capitol yesterday. But otherwise, pretty good.
Yeah, I got you. And then, unfortunately, it looks like the monotony does continue on. But one thing I'm actually noticing as I look at some of the satellite imagery is that actually Ohio County, the northeastern portions of Belmont, as well as extending up into Jefferson, Harrison, and Carroll County, it's actually clear skies outside right now. So if we have a second, or if you have a second, run outside because sunrise is happening right about now. So you'll finally be able to see that fabled yellow orb that we haven't really been able to see so much today or throughout the beginning of 2021. So it kind of feels a little gray and gloomy outside, but it looks like the sun is starting to shine and starting to make its way up. I couldn't figure out what I was trying to say there. Make its way up and rise into the Ohio Valley. So hopefully it's a good sunrise. Make sure you send your pictures in to our email, WTRF7news, to send us in your sunrise, and maybe you'll be featured on air one of these days.
That'd be great. That'd be great because we can't show those pictures on the radio very well. So.
Yeah, no, that seems like a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
I feel like that'd be a hard thing to do, but I'm sure you guys would be able to figure it out though.
Well, we could describe it very well. So
true. Yeah, true. I like that.
Yeah. So we're at right around the freezing level right now. Is it going to get any warmer today, or is it going to be about the same?
About the same from what we've seen the past couple of days, Butch. I mean, high temperatures are only going to get to that mid to upper 30s. I think I have my high temperature today is 37, but the last couple of days going through some of the reanalysis data is that we were consistently, yesterday's high temperature 37, on Tuesday high temperature 36, and then even all the way even into Monday, temperatures only topped off around 36. So we've been dealing with mid to upper 30s, for high temperatures the past couple of days. And again, looks like that's going to continue on today as well as into tomorrow. But that bright spot in that 7-day forecast, of course, is right when typically everyone has off. Luckily, I don't have to work any of the weekends. Aaron's going to be able to handle the weekends this week. But Saturday and Sunday, I'm expecting to see mostly sunny skies, if partly cloudy skies on Sunday. So again, we get through a gloomy work week. We do have the weekend to look forward to, and of course, the sunshine finally returns on the much-needed weekend.
That's fantastic, and good timing, Zach. We appreciate that. I know that I defoliated the Christmas garden the day after New Year's, but my exterior stuff has not come down because it was wet, frankly. And I thought yesterday, well, maybe I'll take it down, and then it was wet again yesterday, so maybe it'll dry up a little bit, and we'll be able to finally get those decorations down.
Yeah, the weekend recharge. I mean, it feels like it's been ages since we've had the sun, since it's been gray and gloomy since Monday, even into Sunday when we had some rain showers roll through, and a nice weekend recharge, not only from the work week, but to recharge those vitamin D batteries since the sun hasn't really been shining too much.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, we're going to try to enjoy this, and I hope that you can enjoy some of the sunshine that's coming over the weekend, too.
Yes, I look forward to it. What are you doing this weekend? Any big plans?
No, it's just in the middle of COVID. Every day is the same as the next day. The only difference is maybe if there's sun or if there's not. So I'm just going to enjoy that. And yes, I will be taking down my Christmas decorations from outside.
Oh yeah, there you go.
All right,
Zach. Makes sense.
Zach, thank you so much. Have a great day, and tomorrow maybe you'll be back to talking to Howard again.
All right, well, if not, it was good talking to you, Butch. Take it easy, and we'll talk to you sometime, all right?
All right, sounds good, Zach. That was Zach from WTRF giving us the weather update. On that note, it might be good to turn to a little bit of local stuff here because we will be getting back to the incidents that happened yesterday. But I did want to bring this up. I mentioned this yesterday, too. In local COVID news. The big news here is that if you know somebody who is 80 years or older, or if you are 80 years or older, you can now get your COVID vaccine right here in Ohio County. The clinics, all COVID-19 clinics are open from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And the clinics are going to be held at the Wheeling, Ohio County Health Department, which is in the City County building on Chaplin Street. But they are by appointment only. You must make an appointment. Now, there's no charge for this or any of that stuff. You don't have to have a doctor's excuse or anything, but you just need to bring some ID for the person who's getting the shot, getting the vaccine, and you need to call and make an appointment so that they can protect people who are getting these shots. We don't want a lot of people standing in line and waiting. So call ahead. I'm going to give you that number in just a moment, but I'm going to give you just a second to get a pen or a pencil so you can write it down. But again, it's at the Wheeling, Ohio County Health Department, 1500 Chaplin Street in Wheeling, and the testing is going on today through next Thursday, according to what I have. And here's that phone number for you. It's 304-234-3756. That's 234-3756. Now, the health department does have 650 doses of the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine, and they're to be administered on a first-come, first-served basis. Remember, bring proof of age and residency too. So like a West Virginia driver's license would be ideal, but you can bring any kind of other proof of your age and make sure that it shows that the person getting the vaccine is 80 years or older.
So they're not like the DMV, Butch, where they require like two of this,
no,
and you
two
got to
of
have
that,
it from
no.
this category and
No.
one from this category. It's nothing like that.
Yeah, you're right to point that out, but no, it doesn't.
Okay.
You don't have to have that much stuff. So, what's going to happen then, of course, after this phase, then this is phase one, and then we'll move forward to protecting the next most vulnerable parts of the population. One other thing that's related to this that I should mention to you is that in recent days, and I don't know if this was going on yesterday or not with everything else going on, it was hard to pay attention to other stuff, but earlier this week, there was a scam, fake text messages that went out saying that it was concerning the vaccines for people 80 years and older. The thing you need to know is that COVID-19 vaccines are done by appointment. So the text message that went out was erroneous, and so please disregard that if you got that, and make sure. And really, the essential thing here is that that the text message that went out said that there was no appointment necessary. Yes, there is an appointment necessary. So just to be sure that you follow everything, and
that's frustrating, and it angers. It should anger people that even a pandemic, and there are scammers like this that are going to take advantage of the elderly and some of the vulnerable populations. So be careful.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have people that are in that age range, make sure everything's okay. And I mean, we tend to think we see some of these flags better than they do. So just kind of check in.
Yeah.
Make sure everything's okay with grandma or grandpa or your elderly population,
Right.
and so they don't become a victim of this, because we don't want that.
No, and people of this age range are particularly vulnerable to this. My father, who lived to be nearly 90, actually did live to be 90. Very savvy, very tech savvy guy. Was a very early adopter to computers. He was the first person I knew that had an iPod back when those things were new. What I'm trying to paint a picture of is this guy was pretty with it. But in his later years, he was the victim of some scams from time to time. One of them was somebody contacted him via telephone saying, your computer is putting out, I forget exactly what they said, but weird waves or something, and we need to take control of your computer so that it stops this. And my dad actually fell for this and lost his entire everything on his computer. It was a ransom scam. So always be careful of elderly people and being taken. Apparently, this happens to even the best of them. And also, this was I don't know that this was nefarious. By the way, I'm not sure what the motive someone would have had. It might have just been a mistake, but it probably didn't target the actual people who are 80 years or older. Because how many 80-year-olds do you know who text? Not a lot, right?
Not too many, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, but it was probably aimed at. I mean, if it was nefarious, it was aimed at younger caretakers, younger people. Maybe the sons and daughters of elderly people. And so, just be careful. Be very careful. Buried in all of the crazy news of the insurrection yesterday. One thing that really didn't get a whole lot of attention was something that we didn't know when I signed off yesterday at 9 o'clock, is this: the Democrats have won control of the United States Senate. Georgians elected John Ossoff to the U.S. Senate, giving the Democratic Party control of the Congress and the House for the first time, in the White House, for the first time in a decade, and delivering a stark repudiation of President Donald Trump as he tried to overturn his own loss. Ossoff's victory and that of fellow Georgia Democrat Reverend Raphael Warnock have effectively flipped the Senate, giving President-elect Joe Biden the power to potentially enact sweeping legislation and push through cabinet nominations without Republican support. The Senate's party split will be 50-50, with Vice President-elect Kamala Harris breaking any tie votes. Warnock, as you may know, is the senior pastor of the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, and Ossoff will respectively be the first black and Jewish senators to represent Georgia. So imagine that, a black man and a Jewish man as U.S. senators from the formerly deeply red state of Georgia. After no Georgia U.S. Senator candidate received 50% of the vote in November, those two races were turned into runoffs with control of the Senate at stake. And Ossoff and Warnock ran on a unity ticket, but while Trump refused to concede his own loss, this sparked a fight within the Republican Party, and it's thought that it disenchanted some of Trump's supporters who believed his false claims that the vote was rigged. Regardless of what happened or how this happened, the implications here are pretty important in that even though it's the slimmest of margins that you could have in control of the Senate, and in the House, the Democrats lost some ground there. What may happen, though, is that we may see some sweeping reforms, and at least we can hope so anyway. All right, well, we've reached the top of the hour. We're going to be back right after the news break with the return of Howard Monroe, along with former Congressman Bob Ney, and we're going to talk again about the events that happened yesterday in Washington, D.C., and provide you with some additional insights. You're listening to The Morning Show with Howard Monroe, with guest host Butch Maxwell, along with Biff Leonard, as always, right here on the Watchdog Network, and we'll be right back.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
The ABC News is brought to you by Thomas Auto Centers, Mall Road, St. Clairsville. Get the best deal at Thomas Auto Centers.
From ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. Stepping up the call for the 25th Amendment to be invoked by the Vice President and the Cabinet so President Trump could be removed from office following Wednesday's violent uprising by his supporters. Former Republican Congresswoman Barbara Comstock.
The people are very concerned just about the mental state of the president. And I think you are here. I certainly have heard the words 25th Amendment mentioned by